All right, today we're diving into a really powerful, super short text, the Sutra on the Emptiness of the Five Skandhas. And yeah, it gets right to the heart of one of the biggest questions we could ever ask ourselves. Who, or what, am I really? So the version we're using for this comes from the Chinese electronic Tripitaka collection. It's a translation by the great master Yi Jing all the way back in the Tang Dynasty. And let me tell you, this teaching is absolutely foundational, a real cornerstone of Buddhist thought.
And really, the whole sutra just keeps coming back to this one very personal question. We think we know the answer. We say things like, oh, I'm my body, or I'm my thoughts. But this text, it asks us to stop and look a lot closer.
Okay, so to really get the sutra's answer, we've got to travel back in time to the exact place where this teaching was first given. This wasn't some abstract lecture, It was a very specific lesson for a very specific group of people.
And it kicks off with these classic, almost storybook words, "Thus have I heard." This little phrase is a signal. It's telling us, hey, listen up. What you're about to hear is a first-hand account from someone who is right there in the room.
So picture this, right? We're in a quiet deer park in ancient India, and the Buddha, he's gathered his very first disciples around him. These are the same 5 guys who practiced with him before he became enlightened. So this is a big deal, a really, really pivotal moment.
So what does he teach them? Well, he starts this systematic breakdown of our most basic assumption, this feeling that we have a solid, permanent I. Let's see how he does it.
He starts by introducing this key idea, the 5 skandhas. Now, skandha literally just means heap or aggregate. And the whole idea here is that what we call ourself isn't one single solid thing. It's actually more like a combination of 5 different, constantly shifting processes.
So what are these 5 heaps? First, you've got form. That's our physical body. Then there's sensation, which is all our feelings. After that comes perception, which is how we label everything. Then mental formations, our thoughts, our habits, all that mental chatter. And finally, consciousness, just that basic awareness that's underneath it all. The Buddhist argument is that our entire experience of being a person is built out of just these 5 things.
And what's so clever is where he starts this whole investigation. He doesn't begin with some lofty philosophical concept. No, he starts with the most obvious candidate for me, our physical body, what he calls form. It's the part of our experience we identify with most easily, right?
The Buddha's logic here is just so direct and simple. He basically says, look, if your body was really you, then you'd have total control over it. You could just say, I want my body to be perfectly healthy, and poof, it would be. Or, I don't want to feel any pain, and you wouldn't. But we all know that's not how it works, is it? Our bodies get sick, they feel pain, and a lot of the time it's completely out of our control.
And this leads to a really crucial conclusion. Because we don't have ultimate control over our body, it can't be our true permanent I. It's something we experience for sure, but it's not what we fundamentally are. The sutra's conclusion is stark, and it's simple. Form is not self.
And this right here is the core of the argument. He then takes this exact same logic and applies it to the other 4 skandhas. Think about it. Can you just command your feelings to always be happy? Can you force yourself to stop unwanted thoughts from popping into your head? Of course not. So by that same logic, our feelings, our perceptions, our thoughts, even our consciousness itself are also not self.
Okay, so realizing that these 5 parts of us are not self isn't just some, abstract philosophical game. It has huge implications for a very real part of our lives, understanding why we suffer.
So the Buddha follows up with another question. And he's not just asking his disciples, he's asking us too. He asks, is our body permanent, or is it impermanent?
The answer is pretty clear, right? It's something we all know just from being alive. The body is impermanent. It's born, it grows, it gets old, and eventually it passes away. It's in a constant state of change.
And this is where he makes the critical connection. The Buddha says that anything that's impermanent is a potential source of suffering. So why is that? It's because we cling to these fleeting things. Our body, our feelings, our ideas. We grasp onto them as if there's some stable, permanent me. And then, when they inevitably change, that's when we feel pain.
All right, so if grasping onto these changing processes is the problem, what's the solution? The final part of the sutra lays out the path to freedom. And it's not about gaining something new, it's about a complete, radical shift in how we see things.
The solution here is all about insight. A wise student learns to just observe all of these components of their experience, no matter what they are, whether they're from the past, the present, or the future, whether they're happening inside you or outside, whether they feel big and coarse or tiny and subtle, whether you judge them as good or bad, near or far, it doesn't matter. You look at all of it and you see clearly that it is all not self.
And when you see this reality with total, unwavering clarity, something profound happens. That attachment just naturally starts to fall away. I mean, if there's no solid I to do the grasping in the first place, and if the things you're experiencing are just fleeting processes, well, the whole urge to cling to them just sort of dissolves.
And this all leads to the climax of the sutra. After hearing this teaching, the 5 disciples, they get it. They awaken. And they make this famous declaration, these words that signify total and complete liberation. By seeing through the illusion of a separate self, they free themselves entirely from that whole cycle of suffering.
And so we end up right back where we started, but hopefully with a totally new perspective. This ancient text has taken apart our everyday sense of self and shown it to be just a collection of changing processes. And it leaves us with this final, really powerful question to think about. If you're not your body, not your feelings, not your thoughts, then what are you? The sutra doesn't just hand you the answer, and that's the whole point. Making that discovery for yourself, that's the entire journey.